Okay, so in the last video, I got a really good question from one of the people who answered it. This is, of course, how to build your Chronomag and not destroy it. Had a really good question of, well, if you just leave your stock system in, can you still destroy it? I wanted to show you today, yes you can. And how. Okay, a little different, but yes, it can be done. Can you still destroy a Kronos with an 18K worker? Yes. Now in here right now, I have a 13K Apollo spring. As you can see here, okay, lots of coils left over. I got a whole coil space per coil, okay? This means that there's lots of room for the catch to catch. I can even manually catch it like most people do. Put in mind that in one of my blasters, you actually can't do this because it's so much weight, you would need two people to hold it down. Okay, it's just so much power. You need two people to hold it down. Okay. Now, of course, I have an extra Kronos setup sitting right here, and one that's actually in was in a Deadpool blaster. Okay, this is actually a Deadpool blaster. Okay, this is not one of those two up there. This is my spare. Okay, so let me explain the things that can happen that can actually cause you to break these tabs or break this tube. Number one, in a stock Kronos setup, you have more of a need for airflow, sudden airflow. However, in this setup, with the AR in, the AR actually cannot actuate faster than the actual ball going out. What I found in another video, and there is another one, I'll try to get you guys a link, that changing out the tube and taking out the AR assembly, not only did it hurt the feeding, because you didn't have the AR peg to push the ball completely into here, but it also didn't make it any faster or any more accurate at 18K. 14, it might be a different story. Yeah, it probably is. But 18, no. Okay? What happens is really simple. Let me pull this part right here. Okay. See that little peg right there? It helps when you're closing the system up to push the ball in. If not, the ball will go back here and it will not be completely fed into the tube. So when you are letting it, yeah, there it is, right there. Okay. What ends up happening is you get the ball doesn't get completely seated into here. The crown of it ends up over here, rather than into here where the very tip of it is right here. What this does is it makes sure that this completely seats in here. Now, how does that have to do with the video? Plenty. Because when you go 18K, air is going to, you're dealing with higher pressure levels, and air is going to try to sneak in any which direction. And what it will do is it will make it so you have blow past over here, so that this breaks later and causes more impact to all this. Is it possible to break it? Yes. That's one way to break it with an 18K. The other way to break it with 18K is your slide. Okay. Make sure at all times, this is possibly why I've never broken a Kronos and other people have. This is bolted, that is bolted. No exceptions. On both sides. This tube is very nice because it actually pulls from 3 points rather than 2. It's one of the reasons I like it. If used correctly, it is actually much stronger than a RET system, and I dare say it, most plastic long shot systems. Okay, but if using correctly, if this screw is just dangling and you're here, you're pulling all your weight up here, which causes a whole tube jackknife. Okay, and what it will do is it will twist it and eventually twist this off. Okay, so you need those 3 screws. If you're playing with a Kronos and you see this screw, which this screw is a tiny little screw, okay, and it doesn't look like it makes much of a difference, but yes it does. that screw is loose at all, put it down, play with something else. I'm dead serious. Have I ever done that with a Chronomag? Yes, actually once, because I saw one of these screws was just slightly out, and I decided, nope, because if you don't do that, and let me put this on here and show you real quick. It's nice, because I can do a hollowed out view of this blaster. Okay, this is nice. I can do a hollowed out view of this blaster without actually doing it. So, here is the anchor point here. Okay, and here's the anchor point here. Another thing I like to do is I like to use a long shot size short screw here rather than the normal screw. What this does is it makes it so it grabs the threads a little tighter and it holds it. So as you can see with these 3 bolts, this is a gorgeous system. You have leverage point here, leverage point here. If your speed hook is here, yeah, real nice. Okay, but these can break loose. And if you also don't over tighten these threads so easy. Don't over tighten them. Very lightly hand tighten this in. Okay. I've even gone to the point where I've had this screwdriver in my pocket using the Chronomag. Yeah, and at Ragnar Oktoberfest, I also had this screwdriver. Well, it wasn't this one. It was another one, but it was just like this one. It's identical to a Craftsman number 0 Phillips. Craftsman number 0 Phillips. I don't know if you can read that. No, you can't. But in there, just in case these came loose. And I did see during breaks, I did see them come loose a couple times. Right. As soon as you lose these screws, take a look at the anchoring. Take a look at that. From a design point of view, that's great. But they should have made these a little wider screw. They should have made these so these were standard screws. Another fix you can do if you de-thread these is you can use a standard screw. Just make sure it doesn't punch completely through your tube on this side over here. Okay, that's another fix you can do. But make sure, 3 points, all times. Chrono tube. If not, you're going to throw this whole thing janky and you'll break. Also, do not try to hang these from these 2 tubes, because all these 3 are slightly off-center. See, this is slightly off-center from the middle. It's not in the center of the torque. The only way to get to the center of the torque of this is to use all 3. This is why, for example, SGGing, a lot of people were discussing using just those 2 bolts, and I said, no, do not use just those 2, because it's not centered. They're not centered from the factory, and they will pull the whole tube this way, like this. Okay? That's another issue. So if these break, yeah, you'll break it at 18K, no problem. I want to thank Corey Riven, or Corey aka Riven on YouTube, for donating this and a black one of these to me for my rifle build. I really appreciate it, and it helps me to make a better video right now, because I've done like 3 takes with the orange one. It's just no contrast. So this has contrast. Thank you very much, Corey. You're the nicest guy in the world. And by the way, he just celebrated his birthday on the 23rd. Happy birthday, buddy. Awesome. Okay, so I want to tell you the next way that you can break a Kronos at 18K. Okay, is if you have to understand about the Kronos. This front acts as a limiter. Okay, yes, you have the dart gate here that's hooked to here, but if you look at this part here, let me take this out. It's a really thin piece of plastic. I've had 2 cases that will go unnamed. One guy, he did a 6-round conversion here, and he made his front here bigger than this. And what ended up happening was, when he was firing it, it jackknifed the whole thing, and it broke the stays here. The other thing was another guy that guy was running 14K Artifact, which is 14K, but it has more pre-compression. Okay, next guy, 18 worker, actually cracked this, which of course made it so the limit was too far, making the tube able to move forward in here. On this setup, you are limited by 2 things on this blaster in terms of forward travel. This and that. And I have seen, even with this in place, this breaking under high pre-compression. Which, by the way, Artifact is a higher pre-compression spring than a 18 worker. However, it isn't as much force. Okay, and I highly recommend 18K for 14 any day. But if you need a backup blaster with lower FPS limits, let's say this blaster is being set up for 13. That way, if I need a Kronos and it's got to be 13, and I don't want to just open up my 18Ks, which I like, they're masterfully built. Yeah. So one thing you can do here is to make this so that it breaks. Another thing that happened was another guy. For some reason, these broke on him. And what happened was, when these broke, this went up here, and this area broke. So he did this modification with the tabs. For some reason, he filed this. When this goes in, your stop point is actually not this round point right here. It is only the top where the peg is. You see it right there? And it's only those two little points. For some reason, he filed it. I don't know why he did. Stupid move, because it ended up being not an effective forward travel anymore. And this broke, I think, so, okay, 3 cases. I think he broke it with a K25. Okay? So, basically, yes, this is why I have extra parts for the Kronos. Because I like my Kronos 18Ks. I love them. 160, 170 feet of rival power. I'd say about 150, 160 with normal rivals, maybe 165. I love them, okay? But you have to recognize that there are lots of points of failure to the system, especially if the front limit goes, and then this goes. In every case I have seen a normal Kronos break, there was some violation of the front limit. Maybe the AR not holding the air at the very end of the prime, or may it be problems with this front area over here. Okay, but as you can see, this system works kind of like this. When you're priming it, can you see that? When you're priming it, there's your back limit right there. This pulls on this to load here, primes forward, and then this ball is here and pushes the ball into here. So pushing the ball in the tube is the last part of the stage. This makes the loading in several stages. It makes it so, okay, here is your ball coming up from the feed tube. Here's your ball going out of the feed tube into like the crest of here, and then the peg pushes it the rest of the way. You don't want to disrupt this. If you want to, if you're real piss ass about it and you want to, make this so that it's glued to the front. So it's all the way down. I don't know if I can get that on vid, right? So it's all the way down and glued. But then you unscrew this and take out this AR. That's fine, because that will respect the proper distance of putting it into here. However, I don't see any real performance difference with the ARN. Yes, even in 18K, I don't see any performance difference. And I've actually seen performance drops because it's not as consistent. And I've actually seen really wild firing. So until next time, this is Chris Cartaya saying, don't you go changing. I'm going to put this on the front here so I can have an identifier for this being 13K rather than 18K, or I'll find you. And you know what that means. Just look at the remnants of Mr. Hostage. Bye.